We are going to talk about the medications in the subsequent slides, okay? And or the most important thing, if the patient is not diagnosed case of hypertension, the very important thing is the patient usually will have the early morning frontal headache, okay? When he wake up from his sleep, the early morning frontal headache is a classical sign of the hypertension, okay? So you can ask the patient whether do you have such type of complaint, and then you can consider him as a patient of hypertension if he is complaining of early morning frontal headache, okay? This is how we can approach the patient with hypertension. The next important lifestyle disease, as I mentioned, is the diabetes mellitus. Again, the patient will be already a diagnosed case of diabetes mellitus, diabetes who is already under medication, very, very important, very good for us. But if the patient does not give the history, then we should know what are the relevant things we should ask to the patient. And the three important things, what we are supposed to ask the patient when we take the history for the diabetes is, we should ask for the patient the history of hyperglycemia, what we call it as the frequent urination, then the frequent the habit of what we call it as the polyphagia, then polydipsia and the polyuria. These are the three important signs of the diabetes mellitus. Okay, polyphagia, patient is having frequent thirst. Polyphagia, polydipsia is frequent thirst, and polyuria is patient is going for the frequent urination. Okay, so if these three important symptoms are there, then we should consider the patient as a patient known of diabetes. Okay, so all these things are very, very important. Now, drug history is another very important thing. Like you might be again asked, is your patient taking any medication? So we should know about these very important drugs, like patient might be on the steroids, the patient might be on the insulin, patient might be on the antihypertensive, patient might be on the diuretics and the MAO inhibitors. Okay. Now the most relevant are the steroids, the patients on the steroids, patients with the insulin, and the patients with the antihypertensive. Especially when your patient is on the antihypertensive, we should ask for the patient whether he is taking any anticoagulants, okay? Because most of the patients who are on the antihypertensive, usually they are prescribed the drugs, what we call it as the aspirin, 75 milligrams of the aspirin, okay? And then there are two schools of thought, whether to stop the aspirin or whether not to stop the aspirins, okay? But it is very, very relevant and very important finding for all of us, okay? The other medically compromised patients will be covered by my subsequent speakers today in the afternoon, so I'm not going to discuss in details about all these things, okay? Now the another very, very important thing is the general examination. What kind of general examination you have done in this particular patient? So the answer should come from you, like you check for the pallor, you check for the icterus, you check for the clubbing, you check for the lymphadenopathy. So these are the few very, very important things which we are supposed to do, and obviously icterus, okay? And obviously so these are the things, and I'm going to talk a little bit in details because most of the students we should know how to do the examination of the pallor. So the first thing is pallor. So what is this pallor indicates, okay? And where you should check for the pallor, okay? Now the pallor is nothing but it is a sign which the patient gives when he is having the problems which are related with the hemoglobin, okay? Whenever the percentage of the hemoglobin in one's body is less, the patient will appear pale, okay? And what is the pathognomic area where we should check for the pallor is, you know, like the conjunctiva is divided into a palpebral conjunctiva. This particular portion is called as a palpebral conjunctiva, and this particular portion is called as a bulbar conjunctiva, okay? So pallor is usually checked in this particular palpebral conjunctiva, where you will feel a paleness which is there, like it is pink in color, okay? But because of the decreased percentage of the hemoglobin in the blood, this particular region will look pale. So that indicates the patient is having a pallor, and we have to correlate this particular pallor with a systemic disease. Very, very important. This will give you a clue. This will give you a tip about examining that particular patient or investigating that particular patient further for the other things. Okay. Now the next is the icterus. Icterus, you know, like I told you, like this is the bulbar part of the conjunctiva. You can see here. So icterus is nothing but your conjunctiva will look very yellowish in color. You can see, you can appreciate on this particular screen, on this particular picture, the yellowish color of the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva again is usually not yellowish in color. It is always white in color. Okay. So whenever you have this particular clinical finding, we should consider that this particular patient is having icterus, and which is giving you an idea, or which is giving you a clue that the patient is having something which is related with the liver, where the bilirubin is increased, and because of that the patient might be having the signs and symptoms of the jaundice. Okay, and now why this particular sign is systemic problem is important for us, because if the patient is having icterus and by chance you did an extraction, the patient may land into different complications, and one of the important complications as far as the dental extraction is concerned is the patient may bleed profusely, because you know the liver is an important factor, important organ which secretes the factors which are responsible for the coagulation. Okay, so we cannot do extraction if the patient is showing this particular type of. And another very important general examination what you are supposed to do is clubbing. Okay, so what you are supposed to see in the clubbing, you see the nails as you can see in this particular picture on the screen. And what does clubbing indicates? Clubbing again indicates the involvement of different systems. Like if it is a cardiovascular system, the patient will have say a subacute acute bacterial endocarditis. Okay, say it is a respiratory system, then the patient will have something like a chronic obstructive respiratory disease. Okay, so these general examination findings gives us a clue about any systemic problem that particular patient is having, and it is very, very important for us, very, very mandatory for us to do a proper clinical general examination. Okay, and which usually is asked by the examiners in your routine clinical examinations. Okay, lymphadenopathy is very, very important. You know, like different groups of the lymph nodes are there, but as far as the undergraduate students are concerned, what we do in the lymphadenopathy, we usually check for the submandibular lymph nodes, as you can see, and the submental lymph nodes. Okay, and the technique which is described or which everybody knows is you ask your patient to just bend his neck towards the affected side when the sternocleidomastoid muscle will get stretched, and then you can check for the submandibular lymph node. Okay, this is the technique, and that again gives you an idea, fairly reasonable good idea about any systemic involvement. Okay, and this is the method how you can check for the cervical node, but for undergrads it is mandatory to do at least submandibular lymph node examination when you are taking the patient for your routine dental extractions. Okay, now very, very important for us is like the extraoral and the intraoral examination. So examiner might ask you, have you done the extraoral examination? You will say yes. So you must know like what are the very important findings which you are supposed to do in the extraoral examination and in the intraoral examination. Obviously all these things you have already done in your routine clinical postings, but I am going to just discuss about the salient points, because the time is very short. In 1 hour it is difficult for us to cover everything. Okay, now what are the important things what you are supposed to do in the extraoral clinical examination is, the first and the foremost is that you should check up for the temporomandibular joint examination. Very, very important, because the TMJ examination will give you an idea about how much is the mouth opening, because if the mouth opening is restricted, you may not have an access to the area where you are actually going to do the procedure. Okay, so the first and the foremost thing is you are supposed to do the TM joint examination. Okay, then in the intraoral examination you have to check for any presence of the infection. Okay, I will discuss this presence of infection in bit detail during the subsequent slide. Then what is the condition of the tooth? Okay, whether any mobility is there, whether the tooth is carious, whether the tooth is having any periodontal infection, and what is the position of the tooth which is present in the antagonist arch. Okay, that is also very, very important. I would like to give you an example. Suppose we want to do the extraction of a lower mandibular third molar. Okay, and the upper mandibular third molar, the upper maxillary third molar is over erupted. Whatever the best possible surgery you have done for the lower mandibular third molar, and if the upper maxillary third molar which is impinging on the cheek is not being taken care, that will hamper the healing and the patient's complaint will not be solved out. Okay, so that is the reason why the antagonist arch also should be properly, thoroughly examined whenever we do the clinical examination. Okay, obviously we do the radiographic examination. All of us knows about this. The most important and the most commonly used radiograph is the intraoral periapical radiograph. It should cover the sufficient area of your interest, and then you can check all the signs and all the signs which you know. And these are the few examples of the radiograph. And if you are not happy with the intraoral periapical radiograph, you can switch over to the at least to the OPG, the orthopentanogram, that is the panoramic X-ray. Okay, that also gives you a reasonable good idea about the appearance and the presence of the tooth. Okay, and we must keep it in mind. There are different anatomical variations which are described in your third year, which are being taught to you in your oral pathology lectures. Okay, like dilaceration, then hypercementosis, then so many things are there, multiple rooted teeth, and all these things. And you can appreciate these anatomical variations. Okay, so treat every tooth. If you are not done the radiographic examination, like having either of the anomalies. Okay, and it is always better if you have any doubt, better to get a radiographic examination and then post that particular patient for the procedure. Okay, now once you are happy with your examination, you do the radiographic the required investigations. Like if you feel the patient is on the aspirin or something like that, or the anticoagulant, we can check the minimum required investigations are the bleeding time, clotting time, hemoglobin, and the blood sugar random. Okay, these are the minimum required investigations whenever the patient is having any of the systemic problem. Okay, if the patient is young, healthy, not giving any systemic history, you can directly proceed with a due care, due precautions for the further extraction. Okay, so these are the important investigations what are routinely asked for the patients. Okay, now the next question what is usually asked by the examiners to you is, yes, dear, what is your diagnosis? Okay, so the answer comes from the student, sir, my diagnosis is caries, my diagnosis is mobility with the tooth. Okay, usually caries, mobility with the tooth, or the infection, these are not the diagnosis. Okay, they are just the signs and the symptoms. Okay, so your diagnosis will be, like if it is a mobility, it will be a periodontitis. It might be a chronic generalized periodontitis. Okay, so what will be your diagnosis? A chronic generalized periodontitis. Okay, so you have to correlate your signs and symptoms with your diagnosis. Okay, suppose there is a tenderness and it is an acute pain, it will be an acute pulpitis. Okay, so your diagnosis will be either pulpitis, periodontitis, but the caries or the mobility is never a diagnosis. Okay, so students, just keep it in mind, you have to give a proper diagnosis whenever the question is asked to you. Okay, very, very important, because that gives you a reasonably good idea about what are the things or how is your perception about this particular specialty. Okay, now once you reach to a diagnosis, a complete treatment planning is very, very important. Okay, so you will be asked like, what is your treatment plan now? Okay, so you should be having a checklist of the treatment plan, like, okay, sir, I want to do the extraction with say mandibular first molar, and this is my treatment plan. So what will be your treatment plan? I will give a local anesthesia, which we are going to discuss. I am going to block inferior alveolar nerve neurovascular bundle along with a long buccal nerve, along with a lingual nerve, and then I will be using elevators and I will be using the forceps, and then I am going to do the extractions. Okay, this will be your treatment plan. Okay, so describe your treatment plan in a very proper words, because you are only responsible how you are going to drag your viva during examinations. Okay, so speak limited words so that the examiner also will not be confused and you will be on a right track